Hey everybody, XEI here for a small little video that I can record on YouTube while my PC is KO'd and I'm trying to kill time. I got 2 more weeks to kill. But anyways, I got to reading some stuff. So of course I started this Dragon Age Omnibus. Now, I don't know why they called it an omnibus. It's actually pretty thin. This is like a standard sized comic. Supposedly it does. It collects 3 different stories. I've only read Silent Grove, which features Alistair, of course, as the main protagonist of the story, the king of Ferelden, Isabella, the pirate thief, and Varric, the master storyteller, rogue, prince of the merchant guild, whatever other titles he has. There's a line in there that says that he's a purveyor of secrets, I think. I don't think that was the word they used, purveyor, but I liked it. But that he corrects it and says, not secrets, stories. And I thought that was interesting because, of course, he does. He loves to tell stories, but also that these stories, they don't, what immediately went through my head is that when you say secrets, you're like, the secrets are like fact. But with Varric, then it kind of put into my head as like, no, he's stories. So stories is different than secrets because stories don't actually need to be fact. They can be embellished, which we've seen in Dragon Age 2, the intro of Dragon Age 2, when I was told about why things look different, and I was like, no, it's because this is his point of view and he's telling a story. It's like, that was actually pretty genius. The first half of it, so it was told in 6 chapters, and the first 3 chapters I felt it's kind of standard, but I mean, from a storytelling perspective, you know, you have your Act 1, which would have been composed of like chapter 1 and 2, let's say. So you get the setup there being it's Alistair looking for King Merrick, like finding out where King Merrick is, and then he has to break into the a crow stronghold or a mansion or whatever, a trap mansion. I don't know why they invested so much money in that. They did Isabella and Varric just. By the way, if you're here, I'm going to be spoiling a bunch of things. If you haven't read this, you need to leave because I'm going to just talk about things freely. Okay, so. When you get to the second issue, though, so he gets through he finds out where he needs to go because he finds out where Merrick might be, and then chapter 2 is he has to break into a prison, and so he needs help, Crow prison, or an Antivan prison, sorry, and he needs, again, Varric's help and Isabella's help to get in there. He does very quick pace storytelling, too. David Gator was a co-writer in this, and you could tell the banter, if you will, the dialogue was very much, like, I was reading the lines in their voices. That's how good it was. So I think even I think in the credits it says that David was the story, like he mapped the story, and I've got to pull it out because I don't want to disrespect the writer's name by not remembering it. So Alexander Freed is under scripts. So Gator under story, Alexander Freed under script. So I thought that was interesting because they nailed the characters in this story, I must say. From a pacing perspective, it felt a little fast, but again, I think because they were telling that series in 6 parts, and there's 2 other series after this, which I can only assume are continuations because it didn't finish at chapter 6. Anyways, going back to the way the patterns work in the pacing. So Act 1 finishes, he gets to the prison cell where Merrick should be, and it's just a decrepit old man that says too late, far too late. So at that point you're like, okay, so let's move on with the story in a narrative patterns that's sort of kicking off like the B story. It's going to be the exploration, the travel. It's like they're going to have to go somewhere, and they end up having to go to they find out from the old man where Merrick might be. So you're getting the B story, the kind of side characters informing the protagonist where they got to go in their journey in order to complete their quest, and that takes them to the swamps. And so they find out about a new Witch of the Wilds, which seems to me, I believe I'm recalling this correctly, it was a daughter of Flemeth that was in her own right a Witch of the Swamps, Witch of the Wilds, but she was the beast of the swamp, beast of the something swamps. Yavanna and her pet dragon, I guess. She can communicate with dragons. She's speaking in their tongue. I thought that was very interesting. And now she's not a straight up Flemeth, so if she is a daughter of the Witch of the Wilds, akin to like a Morgan, because she does say something about her sister. it kind of questions the fact of like how much power do they get? Like where are they getting this power from? Well, Yavanna here, the Silent Grove, you find out is like a kind of sleeping place for dragons, where they went after they were kind of all getting slaughtered. They sort of went here to protect themselves and go into like this deeper slumber. And so you find out in chapter 4, so end of Act 2, essentially, you find out that she did have Merrick, that there was an intention to do something with him, with his blood. That his blood was important because he comes from King Calenhad before him. There was a codex in one of the games. It was Origins or Dragon Age 2, I forget now, but that the blood of Calenhad was said to have ties back to dragon blood, and it's like that's just folk, that's just myth, right? But is it? I don't know, maybe not. So anyway, so they get of course you have to have that part in Act 2 where everything kind of goes sideways on you, and so they get the crows end up tracking them because he wants to get access to the Silent Grove. He has another patron, so you find out there's like a bigger player. There's a pattern at the end of Act 2 that is always like you think you won, but nope, because there's like a bigger dude that's behind all of this. Aurelius something rather, I forget, but in any case, Alistair basically says, let Varric and Isabella go. You can take me, and I surrender. And so Varric and Isabella go back to the Silent Grove to look to get Yelana's help. Yavanna's? Oh my God! Why? I just read it. Yavanna's help, to get Yavanna's help in order to get Alistair back. And at this point you're like, are there shenanigans going on? Because a lot of the whole thing with like the Witch of the Wilds and Morrigan's is that they're always not double speaking, but they're not being clear on what the intent is. It's always like they're on another wavelength of what they're attempting to do, and the machinations, like the pawns that they're moving on the board, and this could all be Flemeth. This could all be via, like, she's like a proxy to Flemeth's ambitions, and maybe she's just more keyed into them than Morgan was. And so you get to the point where Isabella and Varric go back for Alistair. They break him free. They end up killing the dude. I said there was going to be spoilers, but so that's the end of that's going into Act 3, where you're like, okay, now you have that pivoting point where it's like, well, the guy that had the information about Merrick, and he was about to divulge that to Alistair, Isabella gets her revenge on him. It takes him out before he can convey that information. And then it leaves you on a little bit of a cliffhanger going into Act 3. Like, how are you going to do this? How are you going to find this out? Well, Yavanna comes back into the picture. Yavanna ends up doing some crazy necromancer magic. I like it. Brings the guy back from the dead, or his spirit, because of the way that this works in Dragon Age. Brings the spirit back into the body so that the body can say who the master was, and he gives the master's name as Aurelian Titus. Now, if I've encountered that name in the games, I don't remember it, but I'm gonna presume that this story is going to is gonna go there. So Alistair goes back to the Silent Grove, and Yavanna takes him to this to below the grove, where there's these like crystal eggs, where I guess when they go into their dormant state, they would cocoon themselves inside this crystal. I thought it was blue lyrium at one point. It might still be. I was waiting for them to be explicit about it. They weren't, but I mean, it looks pretty. I mean, blue crystal. What else do we know as blue crystals here? Well, the lyrium. Now, don't spoil me for those of you who are watching this but aren't following the LP. I'm currently at the tail end of Inquisition. I put out there a couple speculative theories about how the cosmology works in the Dragon Age universe, and the kind of importance of blue lyrium versus red lyrium. And I just finished Descent. I'm not gonna say too much on this video just in case, but I just finished Descent, and for those of you who know what I'm talking about, like, I've sort of started aligning where dragons might fit into the cosmology and the lore, and so this story was actually very intriguing. This page in particular, right there, talks about how the blood that Alistair has, because the high dragon, wasn't attacking Alistair because it could tell that that he had the blood. Now, that could have been other shenanigans, but let's go on that's factual, that somehow there's dragon blood in the line of Calenhad, and the high dragons recognize that. Why would that be important to the lore? So my brain really started to go there, and I'm going to read this particular panel right here where it's Yavanna kind of doing the exposition part, which is going to kind of wrap this all up. So she says, your heart beats with the old blood as well. Old blood, huh? Where do you think it comes from? I don't know. You tell me, Ivana. It sings of a time when dragons ruled the skies. Now, there's a convention in comic book storytelling that when you bold words, it means they're stressed and that they're important. I've kind of picked up on this. They're important keys inside comic storytelling narrative. And of course, to me, because of the speculative theories I have going on about skies, about the blue being associated to dragons here, right? Because it says it sings, and then there's the idea of the repeated concept of singing, of songs, of that kind of stuff. That's sort of important to the lore, you know? Not sort of, it is. It has to be. So it sings of a time when dragons ruled the skies, a time before the veil, before the mysteries were forgotten. So we know that's factual. In Dragon Age lore, every single race on Thetis seems to forget anything pre-Arlath and Tevinter. So, and then she says, "Can you hear it?" Is she implying that he should be hearing what, the song? Because we've already, like, by the tail end of Inquisition, we are already associating that to a couple things, right? A couple different things. Like, it's almost multifaceted, especially after you play Descent. So then she says, "You see your blood as a curse, your crown as a burden. Use them now to claim your freedom." What are you saying? Alistair says, "Awaken the last of the great ones." What? As your father was meant to. This is important. This is vital lore information. This would have happened before Inquisition started. I forgot to read this before I played Inquisition, and reading it now, I'm happy I'm only reading it now. Like, this would have given me an extra piece of context here that's kind of insane. What they're suggesting here, because it says the last of the great ones, and if my count is correct, there's only one archdemon left. So, absolve him of his oath, and we will search for Aurelian Titus together. Now, I probably already spoiled it because I showed the page of how Alistair deals with this. He deals it in the most Alistair way possible, which is, I don't know. I like to think my headcanon is like, maybe he picked up that irrationality from Xander a little bit, you know, where it's just, he wasn't, no, but Xander would have thought ahead, and maybe he would have, like, still allied so that he could get some help, some very powerful help to get there. But no, in Alistair fashion, he kind of ends that relationship real quick and says, "I want to do it myself. I'm going to take control of all this." And I mean, that's kind of neat. He's kind of taking control over the thing that he hates. He hates the crown. He hates being king. He's not very good at it, he says himself. And so he's on a mission to find Merrick. Now, presumably, that's where I stopped, by the way. So presumably, this might go into some stuff that might have been contextual to the Inquisition experience. And so I don't have the context of what happens when he appears in Inquisition. It was for a very small amount of time. But I guess he would have already done this quest. So he wasn't as incompetent as I would have imagined from my memory of Origins and Dragon Age 2. It looks like this omnibus, this tiny omnibus, probably is a pivoting point for this character's development. And I'm kind of intrigued to see where it goes from there. The main thing was literally that one page. It was the song, it was the blue or the sky, the dragons before the time, that there was a bunch, like, there was a lot of, and it's the blood, that the blood is important. Blood is a theme that's important in Dragon Age. It's important to the lore of the world. It's important to the cosmology. And so based on the speculation of me thinking that blood, okay, I'm going to go into some territory here that if you haven't watched the Let's Plays, just don't spoil me, because I'm still inventing a lot of stuff off the cuff. Don't even say that what I'm saying is wrong. It's just, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. If the game doesn't go into it after I'm done playing the games, I would love to do a series that starts to kind of break more of this stuff down when I can properly investigate it, research it, and put some ideas together in a cohesive manner. So my ideas of how there was some fight, some battle, and the blood was spilled from the pre-races, the proto-races, and to me, I am going to have to spoil things. So I'm sorry if you haven't played Descent, you got to stop right now. So it's the idea of the Titans and the dragons, that there was some clash, and all that's mixed up with the the kind of the wording behind of what God actually meant back in those days. Were they just powerful figures? So I think there's races came from some battle that happened, and that the blood of these like proto species is what sort of either mutated races that already existed, the original races, which I believe were dwarves and elves, or pre-dwarves and pre-elves, and then something happened where the world started mutating them into different races, humans and Kunari in particular, or pre-Kunari, whatever the original Kunari were. But I mean, when I say original Kunari, it's like the humans, there were also original humans. There were the tribes of the humans, right? So, which some of them still exist as of are, some of them, right? So there's like, anyways, there's something there, I think. That's kind of the way I'm kind of creating the lore in my head until the game proves me wrong with it needs to explicitly put something in front of me. Otherwise, I'm going to go and I'm going to continue to build cosmology around my own thoughts. And, you know, if I play a different character, maybe I'll come to different conclusions because the character very much influences how I kind of put these ideas together. So I'll be back later after I finish Those Who Speak. That's the next one up, and I'll catch you there. Don't forget to explore, engage, inspire, buddy. Peace.